There was a time when silence felt uncomfortable to her. Not painful, just heavy. The kind of silence that presses gently against your chest and asks questions you don't know how to answer yet. Her name was Elena. She didn't think of herself as someone afraid of being alone. In fact, she often told people she enjoyed her independence. She lived in a small apartment on the third floor of an old building. The walls were thin. You could hear footsteps from the neighbors above, a door closing somewhere down the hall, a distant television murmuring late into the night. There was always sound, and maybe that was the point. Every morning, Elena woke up to the glow of her phone before the sun had a chance to reach her window. Messages, notifications, news headlines, voices of people she hadn't spoken to in years but still followed every day. She would scroll while brushing her teeth, scroll while the kettle boiled, scroll while putting on her shoes. Silence never lasted long. On her way to work, she wore headphones even when nothing was playing. She liked the feeling of them there, like a barrier, like proof that she was connected to something, even if she wasn't really listening. At work, there were meetings, emails, small talk by the coffee machine. "How was your weekend?" "Busy." "Same here." Always busy. And when the day ended, she rarely went straight home. There was always something to do: a cafe, a bookstore, a walk with no real destination, anything to delay the moment when the door would close behind her and the apartment would fall quiet. At night, she turned on the TV even if she didn't watch it. The light flickered against the walls. Voices filled the room. Laugh tracks told her when to laugh. Silence stayed outside. Elena never thought much about it. This was just life. Modern life. Everyone was like this, weren't they? Until one evening, something small happened. Something so ordinary that she wouldn't remember the exact date later. Her phone died. No warning, no dramatic moment, just a black screen in the middle of a song. She stood in her kitchen, one hand still holding the phone, the other resting on the counter. The kettle hadn't finished boiling yet. For a few seconds, she did nothing. Then she laughed quietly, a short breath of sound. "It's fine," she said out loud. She plugged the phone into the charger and waited. And waited. The screen stayed dark. The kettle clicked off. The room felt different. Too still. Elena reached for the remote and turned on the TV. Nothing happened. She tried again. Still nothing. Power outage. She stood there, surrounded by objects that suddenly didn't work. No phone, no TV, no internet. Just her. And the apartment. At first, it felt inconvenient. Annoying. She lit a candle and poured hot water into a mug. The flame flickered softly, casting slow shadows on the wall. She sat down at the small table by the window and waited for time to pass. "This won't last long," she told herself. It never does. But minutes stretched. The city outside seemed quieter than usual. No hum of appliances, no music drifting from another apartment, just the sound of her own breathing. In, out. She shifted in her chair. Her thoughts grew louder. Did I forget to reply to that email? What if my alarm doesn't go off tomorrow? I should check the weather for the morning. She reached for her phone again. Still nothing. Elena sighed and leaned back. For the first time in a long while, there was nothing demanding her attention. No one asking. No one waiting. The silence settled in. At first, it felt like an empty room. Unfurnished. Cold. She noticed things she usually didn't. The faint ticking of the clock in the hallway. The distant sound of traffic far away. The candle's soft crackle. Her mind kept trying to escape. She thought about old conversations, things she should have said differently, moments she replayed without meaning to. Her shoulders tensed. Why is this so uncomfortable? She wondered. She stood up and walked around the apartment, touched the back of the chair, straightened a book on the shelf. Busy hands, busy mind. But eventually, there was nowhere left to go. She returned to the table and sat down again. The candle burned lower. Elena rested her elbows on the table and looked at the flame. She remembered something she hadn't thought about in years. When she was a child, she used to sit alone in her room for hours. No phone, no music, just her imagination, her thoughts. She had drawn pictures, made up stories, talked to herself quietly. Back then, being alone didn't scare her. It felt natural. So when did it change? She closed her eyes. At first, all she could hear was her own breathing. Then something deeper surfaced, a tiredness she had been carrying for a long time. Not the kind that sleep fixes, a softer, heavier kind. She realized she had been filling every quiet space without asking why. Noise as a habit, distraction as comfort. The candle flickered again, and she opened her eyes. The room didn't feel as empty now, just still. Elena wrapped her hands around the warm mug and stayed there. No scrolling, no checking, just sitting. Minutes passed. She noticed her thoughts slowing down, not disappearing, just spacing out, like clouds drifting instead of crashing into each other. She thought about her day, not to judge it, just to notice. She thought about how often she said, "I'm fine," without checking if it was true. She thought about how rare it was for her to listen without preparing a response. The power didn't come back that night, and for the first time in a long while, Elena didn't feel relieved. She felt curious. When the candle finally burned out, the room went dark. She didn't rush to bed. She stood by the window, looking out at the city lights in the distance. Somewhere out there, life was still loud. But here, in this small, quiet space, she felt something unfamiliar. Not loneliness. Space. Room to breathe. She didn't know it yet, but that night would change the way she understood silence. Not all at once. Not dramatically. Slowly. Quietly. The way real changes often begin. She slept differently that night. Not deeper, not longer, just quieter. When morning came, the first thing Elena noticed was not her alarm. It was the light. Soft. Pale. It slipped through the thin gap between the curtains and rested gently on the wall. She lay still for a moment, confused. No buzzing. No sound pulling her back into the world. Then she remembered. The power outage, the candle, the silence. Her phone was still on the nightstand, dark and lifeless. She reached for it out of habit and then stopped. Something about the stillness made her hesitate. She sat up slowly and let her feet touch the cold floor. The apartment felt different in the morning. Not empty, just awake. She opened the curtains and looked outside. The city was already moving. Cars, people, life rushing forward. But inside her apartment, time seemed to stretch. She made breakfast without turning on any music. Just the sound of water running, bread toasting, a spoon against a cup. It felt strangely intentional, like she was choosing each movement instead of rushing through it. When the power finally returned, the lights flickered back on. The clock blinked and reset itself. Her phone vibrated immediately. Messages poured in, notifications stacked on top of each other. For a second, Elena felt the familiar pull, the urge to catch up, to respond, to rejoin the noise. But something had shifted. She picked up the phone and placed it face down on the table. Not forever, just not right now. At work that day, everything looked the same desks, the same conversations. But Elena noticed how often she reached for her phone without thinking. In the elevator, in line for coffee, while waiting for a meeting to start. Each time she paused, not because she had to, but because she wanted to notice the moment. She started eating lunch alone again, not scrolling, not reading, just sitting with her food and the quiet hum of the room. At first, it felt awkward. She worried people might think she was lonely, but no one seemed to notice or care. That realization stayed with her. After work, instead of stopping somewhere on the way home, she went straight back to her apartment. She opened the door, stepped inside, and closed it gently behind her. The silence returned. This time, it didn't rush at her. It waited. Elena set her bag down and stood in the middle of the room. No plan, no distraction, just presence. She sat on the floor, back against the couch, and closed her eyes. Her mind wandered. Thoughts came and went, some familiar, some new. She noticed how often she judged her own thoughts. This one is silly. This one is dramatic. Why am I thinking about that? She let those judgments soften. Let the thoughts pass without chasing them. Minutes stretched. She lost track of time. And in that quiet space, something surfaced. A memory, not sharp, not painful, just unresolved. A conversation from years ago. Someone she had drifted away from. Not because of anger, not because of distance, just because life got busy. She felt a gentle ache, not regret, more like longing. The silence didn't push it away. It held it. She realized then that she had been avoiding this kind of feeling, not because it was unbearable, but because it required stillness, and stillness had felt dangerous. In the days that followed, Elena began to create small pockets of quiet. 10 minutes in the morning before checking her phone, evenings without background noise, walks without headphones. At first, her thoughts were loud, restless. They jumped from topic to topic, searching for something to cling to, but slowly they settled, like dust falling after a room stops being disturbed. She started noticing patterns. How often she filled silence with noise before it even arrived. How uncomfortable she felt when she didn't have something to react to. She also noticed something else. A softness. Moments of clarity. She remembered why she liked certain things, why she stopped doing others. She remembered parts of herself that had been buried under constant stimulation. One evening, she sat by the window again. The city lights flickered below. This time, she didn't feel like she was missing out. She felt complete. She thought about the word alone, how it had always sounded like a warning, like something to avoid. But now, it felt different. Being alone wasn't the same as being disconnected. It was a space, a meeting place, a chance to listen. She picked up a notebook that had been sitting untouched on a shelf. Blank pages. She opened it and began to write. Not a plan, not a list, just thoughts, fragments, questions she had never asked herself out loud. What do I need right now? What am I afraid of losing? What feels true, even when no one is watching? The words didn't flow easily, but they were honest, and that felt new. Days turned into weeks. Elena didn't withdraw from the world. She still met friends, still laughed, still worked, but she no longer feared the moments in between. She stopped filling every gap. She let silence arrive and trusted it. One afternoon, a friend asked her, "Don't you get lonely?" Elena paused. She thought about the candlelight, the quiet mornings, the notebook. She thought about how different loneliness felt from solitude. Loneliness was feeling unseen. Solitude was seeing yourself. "I don't think so," she said slowly. "I think I finally know how to be with myself." That night, As she lay in bed, the city sounds drifted in from outside. Elena felt something settle inside her. A calm, not perfect, not permanent, but real. She understood now that silence wasn't empty. It was full of answers that only appeared when everything else stepped aside. And for the first time, being alone felt like a choice, a gentle one she could return to whenever the world grew too loud.